was shaping the hunger, shaping the attitude, shaping the belief to fall and get up and dream again. And honestly, I can tell you, it doesn't matter whether you failed once, it doesn't matter whether you're a rank holder, it doesn't matter whether you were in the best college or the worst college. Today, if I have to hire a guy, I don't care about marks, I don't care about degree, I don't care about whether he comes from a large company or a small company. I care about the attitude. I care about the resilience. I care about the passion, the energy, the dream, the desire to be able to change the future. Today's strategy doesn't get you dividend. Getting results does. So execution is extremely critical. But by the way, in this foggy future, you have to make strategic bets. There is no one degree that is going to make you successful. There is no easy hall pass to success. And therefore, the openness to learn, to try things, to fail, and not give up from those failures, and be bold enough to take calls is what the recipe of the success is going to look like. So, I'm going to break this conversation into two parts. The first part is going to be more personal, and I will be vulnerable. But I want to be vulnerable because I think it's important for each one of you to learn that art of being vulnerable when you go out. Otherwise, everybody is a trailblazer, right? Everybody wants to look good. There is nobody who goes out and says, I failed, right? But in business, you will fail. And it's the failures and the art of growing from failures that makes you successful. So the sooner we embrace it, the better it is. I know we need to look good, but we need to be authentic as well. So the first part of the conversation is going to be more personal. I'll share sort of more openly and freely. And the second part, time permitting, I will bring in a business context. Because you guys will now sort of, either for further education or otherwise, you will get to a business environment. And you need to get a sense of what the business is looking for. You may study what you study, but what makes you successful in a corporate is equally important for you to get. So you can contextualize what you're learning back to what you'll be needing when you get back to corporate. So, as I said, at a personal level, I come from a family of engineers. Everybody in the house is either not educated or is an engineer. And I, one fine day bumped into somebody who was a chartered accountant from PwC. He was actually in the Kenya firm from Africa. And I found it very aspirational, inspirational. It was a great conversation. And I decided saying, "Mujhe commerce karna hai." And it was like Atmahatya. It's like, pagal ho gaye ho kya? And I'm talking about the generation that you will not relate to. But in those days, if you weren't an engineer, doctor or a civil servant, तो आपका बेटा तो निकम्मा है. तो चलो अब commerce करना है. And everybody gave me some gyan. But I was very clear. And I am an ambitious guy, by the way. So I was clear saying I'll prove them wrong. This is a quick path to glory. And I have my thought very clear. And this ambitious dream journey of wanting to prove the world and family wrong and wanting to be super successful started with a failure saying, Shimla mein padhta tha main, Shimla mein. So I didn't even freaking top my school. Second आया, SRCC में admission नहीं मिली, दुखी हुआ, but then I said चलो कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता, अगर Big Four में चले जाओगे तो सब पाप धुल जाएंगे. If you get to a PwC or whatever, a Big Four, you kind of had a fair start. But Big Four में भी नहीं admission हुई, दाखला ही नहीं हुआ, तो सपने टूट गए कि सही बोला था पापा ने, इंजीनियर बन जा बेटा, ये सब गलत रास्ते में फंस गए हो तुम. फिर किसी ने समझाया कुछ नहीं होता, Big Four, no Big Four, आर्टिकलशिप में कुछ नहीं रखा, तुम CA में रैंक लेके आ जाओ, सब सॉल्व हो जाएगा. ऐसे ठीक है, रैंक तो ले लूँगा, पढ़ाई लिखाई करने में, एफर्ट करने में टेंशन नहीं होती. एंड गेस व्हाट, इंटर फर्स्ट फटाक क्लियर हो गया, रैंक नहीं आई बट चलो अच्छे नंबर थे, सब बढ़िया था, कोई एक सब्जेक्ट में स्टेट टॉपर था, ये था वो था, कुछ सम स्टोरी हैपन. फाइनल के अंदर ग्रुप फेल हो गया. SRCC नहीं हुआ, Big Four नहीं हुआ, रैंक आनी थी, ग्रुप फेल हो गया. सही बोला था पापा ने, इंजीनियर बन जा. So you were kind of down to the end. One would say you had not failed before. You had failed some of your dreams, but this was like a real failure. And I said, तो खत्म, तुम तो मतलब सारी उम्र तुम्हारा CV जब ट्रेल ब्लेजर तो कहाँ होना था, मतलब you used to read saying this guy was a rank holder. Man, this bugger is not even a first timer CA. क्या करोगे cover up? And somehow kind of pulled myself together and I said, चलो कुछ नहीं होता, CA बन के कुछ बड़ा next करेंगे. And fortunately, God's grace, the next time I cleared the CA. Uh, so, and there was this, in these 3 or 4 years that had sort of gone by, where you kept dreaming and pulling up the next thing, and you kept failing, sort of burning within you. You wanted to go prove the world that you're freaking as good. Right? And despite a failure, you had to find the next dream to say, अच्छा ये कुछ नहीं होता, ये fail हो गया, मैं अगला achieve करूंगा, मैं अगला achieve करूंगा, मैं अगला achieve करूंगा. And I think those 3 years possibly was shaping what has possibly been the biggest success for me. And that was shaping the hunger, shaping the attitude, shaping the belief to fall and get up and dream again. And honestly, I can tell you, it doesn't matter whether you failed once, it doesn't matter whether you're a rank holder, it doesn't matter whether you were in the best college or the worst college. Today if I have to hire a guy, I don't care about marks, I don't care about degree, I don't care about whether he comes from a large company or a small company. I care about the attitude. I care about the resilience. I care about the passion, the energy, the dream, the desire to be able to change the future. Right? And that is not privy to one particular seat. That's more like a mindset. And that's a skill you need to have. Now, if you are in the best place, best college, best environment, you clearly have a head start. But don't be complacent, is all I'll say. And if you're not complacent, I'd also say don't be scared. Because sometimes when you are the best, you kind of get the most scared about failing. Shit, SRCC में तो हूँ, पर अगर IMA नहीं हुआ तो क्या होगा? उफ, कुछ नहीं होगा. Not that नहीं होना चाहिए. बिल्कुल, go for the moon. Go for even better. But if that doesn't happen, it's like a one-day match. And you can turn things around completely. God gives many, many opportunities. But that hunger, the desire to make a big impact is what will make you a lasting success. And that's extremely important. And then if you take this learning back to a corporate environment, business environment, every year PwC does a CEO survey. We go around the world and we talk to close to about 5,000 CEOs and say, what's on your mind? What's worrying you? What keeps you awake? Where do you think the future of business is going to be? And that's a very powerful insight because that gets you a worldview of where the market is, where the trend is, where the future is, where the next set of opportunities are. So this year, and we launch that report every year in World Economic Forum Davos. Our global chairman gets involved and we release it. So Google PwC CEO survey, you'll get that report. Read that because it gives you a sense of where the world is headed. 45% of CEOs around the world came back and told PwC, I may be a successful company today. I may have transformed my business already. I may have tried new things. I may have gone digital. I may have done things. But hands on the heart, I don't feel confident that my business will survive a decade. It's a very humbling experience. And the clients that PwC works with is large clients. I mean, we're dealing with Fortune 500. We're dealing with FTSE 500, large companies. And that CEO says the fact that I've been super profitable, the fact that I have a large market share, the fact that I'm successful today does not leave me with confidence that that is going to help me leave a great legacy when I move out. 10 years, I may not have a right to exist. Now that's suddenly a very humbling experience. And the ground reality is there is no magic wand that tells you the answer of saying what the future success mantra looks like. And in that foggy future where you're trying to figure out how to succeed, you will have no choice but to build a muscle of fail fast, fail cheap. You will have to try things, fail, find that failure, detect that failure early, be less emotional about it and move on to the next one, move on to the next one, move on to the next one. 10 out of your 8 business investments will fail, but 2 will give you like a massive 10x leap. But if you don't even try 10, if you just fail after 3 and say, oh yaar, ye hamare bas ka nahi hai, let's keep going the same way. Let's just conserve cash. You are clearly going to be out of business in 10 years. That's the reality we all live in. And I actually want to give you some examples for it as well. I'll give you a real life business example so you can relate to it, so that it's not theory. And you can relate, then apply that example to any freaking industry. Everybody's in the same position. And actually, when you go out for an interview next time, when somebody turns to your campus, you should ask that question to the CEO who's interviewing you. Saying, what gives you a belief that your business model, your company is destined to succeed in the next 10 years? Immediately offer mil jayega tumko. So, let's say, actually before that, yesterday I was in Bombay. I work in tech, media and telecom clients. So I was meeting media companies. So in our country, there are about 55, 56 OTT players. You understand OTT, right? Now, none of those OTT players make money. They're all in losses. Right? That industry is growing 33% every year. It's a big industry. It's where the money is. It's where the growth is. It's where the future is. But none of them make money. And if you pick up somebody as successful as Netflix in a country of 1.6 billion people, Netflix is good, right? How many of you are on Netflix? How many subscribers does a Netflix have in the country? 7 million. In a country of 1.6 billion people, they have 7 million subscribers. Today, if I were to say, let's figure out a business model where we will get advertising dollars in the country through Netflix. 7 million, you'll get chicken shit. You don't exist. Subscription revenues, India pushes the subscription costs down. It's already becoming cheaper. The cost of content is huge. It's media industry. Will you ever make profits? It's a very sticky wicket. And the Netflix CEO globally goes out and says, India is a large market. We're going to be increasing, doubling down our focus on India. We'll try and drive growth. How will you drive growth? You're at 7 million. It's chicken shit. And you are supposed to be the kings of OTT. You've got the best content. The whole of SRCC is watching them. Kya kare? What should they do? What is your advice to the global CEO? What should they start doing? A Disney Hotstar is about what, 30 million people, subscribers. They are the second largest in the country. A Lionsgate is 2 million subscribers. 2 million? Will you even be in the business? Now, when you step into the shoes of these CEOs, they have to take calls. What can they do? India is a sports market. Let's invest in sports. But sports is $1 billion auction. Do I have $1 billion to punt? Do I want to compete with Reliance? What should I do? Should I stay on the fence? Should I get into sports? Should I get into esports? But that's like $100 million market in India. But it's a growing trend globally. Do I start investing in esports today? Do people like esports? How many of you watch esports? Handful. As a CEO, should I start pumping money on esports? Should I hire you as a CEO of esports and say, let's build this market? Because sports is too expensive. That's what I'm saying. If you keep saying no and keep doing the more of the same, you're anyways dying. 2 million subscribers, you will not survive. But by the way, just as cricket has grown, just as kabaddi has grown, esports could grow too. Sports gaming could grow too. So these are various ideas where you'll have to keep pumping in money, try things, fail, happily shut it, move on, and not be shy about failures. Not go back and say, oh, by the way, I'm a CEO and I failed 5 decisions. But do schools and colleges teach you how to fail? Do we celebrate failures? Do your parents say, अच्छा बेटा 0 आ गया, बहुत अच्छा, congratulations, आज party करते हैं? That's a skill you'll have to learn yourself. And that's where vulnerability is important. It's very important, at least in your closed circuits, to go out and talk about failures. At a personal level, at an emotional level, at a human level. Because that helps you build the muscle of celebrating a failure and being confident enough to go out, face another failure until you get this massive 10x leap. Right? Let's pick up another example. We've heard of driverless cars. Right? What does that mean to... I am a company that sells tires. Right? And auto sector is going through a phenomenal growth. My business is growing. I'm Apollo Tires or whatever. It's a recorded session. I'm a tire company and the business is running well. The country's 1.6 billion people. Tires are being sold. Everything is good. I have a large distribution channel. Har gaon mein, every city, every tier 2, tier 3 level, there is a shop and that shop sells Apollo tires and therefore they recommend my tire and therefore I have a great business and a distribution reach that nobody can come in and compete. Whether I'm Apollo or MRF or Bridgestone, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's the business model I'm in. Now, what should I be doing? Should I be happy with my laurels, or do I go back to PwC's point saying in 10 years business model will change, you'll not be able to survive? What would you want to do differently? I'm hearing the trends saying there is driverless cars. I'm hearing the trend saying the world is getting Uberized. I'm hearing a trend saying that this generation does not like ownership. I'm hearing the trend saying this generation likes change. I'm hearing the trend saying the world of technology is moving really fast, and therefore what is good today will not look good 3 years later. I'm a tire company. Does any one of these trends make any difference to me? Right now, as a CEO of that company, I say, yeah, I don't care. Even if it means something to a car company, not to me. I will keep selling tires. Now I'll play the script differently. Pick up all these trends: driverless cars, Uberization, people don't like ownership. There are data points that are saying that in about a decade's time, the retail ownership of cars will completely get over. People will stop buying cars. What will that mean? That doesn't mean cars will not get sold. Cars will be offered as a service. It is mobility as a service, which is where the future is. Who will offer mobility as a service? Not an individual. It will be large fleet operators who will offer mobility as a service. So there is a business that somebody will create of saying, I own 40,000 cars, different segments, and I will run these cars in a driverless world in the most optimal environment to be able to give you all a better service than your personal drivers today offer. What does that do today? One, of course, it creates a new opportunity. Somebody's got to build that business, and some CEO should be putting money there. What does that do to business? Suddenly, a consumer buying and taking an emotional decision has changed to a large fleet company that's going to take a corporate mind and saying, what's the best ROI? What gets me the best service levels? What gives me durability? The whole buying dimensions change. You go to a nice showroom and the channel partner says, sir, ye gaadi bahut acha hai. What do you think when I'm buying 40,000 cars I will do? Will I go to a distributor? Or will I write to the head office? Here is my RFP, please respond. The change of customer has suddenly changed the buying patterns. Right? Now, when those 40,000 cars are bought by that large fleet owner, how do you think they will deal with tires? The game has changed. The cheese has moved. You're out of business, my dear friend, because that guy will go back and say, I want 40,000 tires, 40,000 tires into 40,000 rupee per tire, with a commitment saying, this will be nice, this will be durable. Sorry, I'm not spending that much money. Can you give me tire as a service? You say your tires run for 40,000 kilometers, they cost 40,000 bucks, that's a rupee per kilometer, pay me that as a service. But how will I track how many kilometers your car has run? How will I keep raising invoice? When will you pay me? How will you pay me? The whole model is changed. I'm suddenly going to get out of business if I'm not in that space today. And as we speak, there is somebody in the country who's already thinking tire as a service. Because with technology, it's possible. If I have IoT sensors available in your car, they're tracking your kilometers. That feed is actually through 5G coming on to the central servers for me to know what that consumption is. The UPI payments are making the micro payments happen. And by the way, I was in the tire business, right? That entire data today that I capture as a tire company is beginning to disrupt automobile insurance industry. Because today I know he's a safe driver and she's not a safe driver. Or she's a good driver and he's a bad driver. And therefore the cost of insurance for him should be more and cost of insurance for her should be less. Suddenly the insurance company is gone for a toss. And who will disrupt the insurance company? The guy who has the data. So that's the world of uncertainty that we are living in. And there are no easy answers. And when there are no easy answers, what comes to rescue is jigra, courage, gut, conviction. You've got to have the conviction to move ahead and the humility to fail. And then be able to step up and move ahead. So for this world that I was trying to paint, every industry is going to go through this. Pick up any industry. I'll give you one nugget on healthcare. Today, let's say, somebody here is a family of doctors. Now you go back and say, yeah, what Fortis and Apollo and, Max, they are so big. They've got funding and all of this. I've got a small 50-bed hospital. How will I grow? How will I compete? That's one way of looking at it. I'll give you another spin to the story. Today, more than 90% of the population of this country goes to hospitals that are outside of the top 7. Which means 90% of the target segment for a hospital goes to a hospital that has less than 350 beds. What does that mean to me? I'm an entrepreneur. I want to do business. That means these 350 bed hospitals is a big catchment that now needs to get digitized, and they now need to be able to differentiate themselves and be able to deliver better service, better outcome, better benefits to people for them to start getting bigger and bigger. But they don't have the money. They come to PwC saying, hey guys, can you help me transform? Can you afford us? Will we be able to work with you? I mean, questions like that, right? You ignore the SMBs. But if I start aggregating all of them, that's 90% capacity. Now, can I build a business model today that allows each one of these hospitals to fundamentally digitize and transform and be in a position to compete with large companies, large hospitals? We've got to scratch the surface to be able to build that business model today. And there are multiple revenue streams that you can create once you start doing that. So it's happening in every single industry. And as you move out to the next jobs, or as you get down to next sort of B-school journeys, or whatever curriculums that you do, that's the environment that you will be encouraged to dream about. Your CEO in the company will say, tell me what that foggy future looks like. And by the way, there is no book that will tell you, there is no Google that will tell you. You will have to read reports, you will have to connect the dots, you will have to make some assumptions and be humble enough to know that 8 out of those 10 will go wrong. And that's absolutely fine. Right? And just to kind of start wrapping this up, I think leadership's a great capability, right? But there is no magic wand for leadership. I actually think there are a bunch of paradoxes which are diametrically opposite that have to be embraced to navigate these uncertainties. So, for example, a lot of discussions, I'm a technologist, so therefore I'll go back and I have this huge leap of faith on technology in terms of technology can solve a lot of things. So, if I am a technologist, I sometimes forget that businesses are run by people and they are run for people. The customers are human. And when you start bringing a technology mind, you sometimes forget the human. Right? And that is the pit hole within which you fail. And then we step into the shoes of people who are human in the center, your design engineers, your CHROs, head of HRs. These are people who have human in the center. When they're so deeply connected with the human at the center, they forget technology. And that's a pit hole, and then you go down. And technology is here, human is here. And the leader of the future needs to be a technologist with a human heart. Now that's a great combination to be successful. How do you either find a curriculum that allows you to learn both, or pick up 2 curriculums and be the center stage to be able to bring both of those together? These are 2 different streams altogether. CTOs don't understand people, CHROs don't understand technology. Bring them to the center. They'll both become CEOs. There is a lot of disruption that I'm talking about. What does that disruption do to businesses? Uncertainty. What does that uncertainty do to people? Creates anxiety. Generative AI will take on jobs. What does that do to people? There are layoffs happening. What does that do to people? Oh my God, my competitor companies laid off people. Will my job be at risk? This is the reality we all live in. Right? So when you're an employee in a company, you want your top man, top woman, top leader, chairperson to feel like a hero that soothes your nerves, saying, we are in good shape and you are in safe hands and we are steering right for market leadership. We all love that. So the world wants the leader to be a hero, right? But that same hero, I was telling, needs to have all the humility to know that there are no easy answers to navigate the future. That same hero needs to have the humility to say that the decision I'm taking and the investments I'm making could fail. And therefore I need to have an open ear to listen. So again, 2 paradoxes of leadership. You need to have the conviction and the heroism, but you need to have humility. So the leader of the future is going to be a humble hero. Very difficult, but that's what we've got to do. You have to be best skilled, you have to be best educated, you have to have the conviction and the confidence, and yet have the humility on the ground. Are you guys with me? Strategy and execution. मैं तो strategic हूँ, बड़ा सोचता हूँ. वो तो, you're too much into details. You're never going to grow in life. Today's strategy doesn't get you dividend. Getting results does. So execution is extremely critical. But by the way, in this foggy future, you have to make strategic bets. So if I am a board member and I'm hiring a CEO for my company, आपकी जेब का पैसा लगा हुआ है. Let's say you are hiring a CEO for your family startup. Who will you hire? A strategist or an executor? A strategist is a guy who gives you all the big picture. That's where the world seems to be. मेरे पैसे का क्या करेगा भाई? The leader of the future has to be a strategic executor. There's no choice. Life is too complex. You'll have to be a blend of both. And that's the reason why I'm saying, when you're getting towards a world where you need to be multiple things together at the same point in time, you need to be a strategic executor, you need to be a humble hero, you need to be a human technologist. There is no one degree that is going to make you successful. There is no easy hall pass to success. And therefore, the openness to learn, to try things, to fail, and not give up from those failures, and be bold enough to take calls is what the recipe of the success is going to look like. But if I were to just get into a conversation with you guys and saying, let's paint the next 5 years as to what is the future of work. Let's say you're sitting in a room full of CHROs, head of HRs, and we say, okay, what will be the future of employment in my company? Let's start thinking. Let's start brainstorming. Right? And with all that we keep hearing about saying there is a chip in the brain that can be put out that sort of gives you cognitive capabilities to respond things differently. Have we heard like a mad rush of figuring out what does that mean to my business? People are saying, कर रहा है Elon Musk करने दो, हमें क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? अभी तो बहुत time है, सानू की. But the cheese will move very, very soon. So you have to figure out what does that chip mean to my world. Have you heard of digital twins? Right? In the world of manufacturing, they talk about digital twin. Here is a factory, I can create a digital twin and control this entire factory remotely. There is a very active discussion happening around the world around saying digital twins at work. There is a Manpreet and there is a digital twin of Manpreet. And that digital twin of Manpreet can leave the company. The digital twin is company's IP. And therefore, everything Manpreet's learned for 23 years at PwC, this twin knows. And suddenly the 250,000 people in PwC have their twins who now bring in a layer of intellectual capital that can be a huge competitive advantage. Now, those are the worlds we are getting towards. What is your point of view on that world? No subject teaches you that. Subjects give you a building block, a framework, an approach, a mindset, a muscle for you to do your own research. But you ought to be opinionated about some of those things and be a storyteller about it. Because that is what the future of business is going to be. And by the way, you are the best and the brightest that the country has. And this is the right time to be in the country. So there's this massive onus on all of you to actually be big dreamers. Be completely unconstrained in your thinking. What is the difference between an MNC manager like me and a startup guy? क्या फर्क है दोनों में? An MNC guy is taught and groomed in the traditional world of saying, here are your resources, your job is to maximize the output and deliver the best return. It's a very predictable path. And a startup guy is a guy who wakes up, dreams, has zilch resources, but the dreams are not a subject of the resources at hand. You think beyond resources. And if the dream is big enough and there is the right bias for action and your vision is supported with action, resources will follow. You will become a magnet where people will come to you. And the world we are getting to is where companies will want startup capabilities within the companies. So I pride myself, again in PwC, we go back and say we are a startup within this large brand called PwC where everybody has the space to reinvent themselves and dream beyond resources. Good. So that's largely it from me. But I'm happy to pick up any questions or elaborate a little bit more on the discussion.
My question to you is like yesterday we had a session with Sri Ranjan Gogoi, and Sir mentioned that we need to implement digitalization and judiciary system that has some problems with the efficiency to like 100-page summary, get it in 10 minutes. What's your point of view in that?
Is there anybody in the room who says digitization of judiciary should not get done? See, I love opinionated people. And as I said, there is never a right answer. You could go back and swing the pendulum whichever way you want to. But I think it's almost a no brainer. In a country where judicial enforcement is a mess up, cases take forever to get solved. When I'm a multinational, when I'm looking at making investments in the country, the first thing I look at saying ease of doing business. The second thing I look at saying, oh, what if I have a commercial litigation? Will I be able to resolve it? And if I can't resolve it, it's a risky market. Right? So you want quick decisions. For quick decisions, what do you want? Your ability to research, your ability to read, your ability to scan. Today there are tools, AI, Gen AI. I mean, I've got on my machine a tool called Harvey.ai. Google karo sab. Harvey.ai kya hai? That's a platform where I can today put 50 documents, today 50 documents. I'm looking for, let's say, a B school admission in the US. And I have 20 universities in mind. I pull the prospectus, put it up right there, and say, can you tell me a competitive comparison of each one of them and help me make a choice? This is my interest and background. You'll get the answer in 60 seconds. But the problem is, the human mind is saying, nahi, wo utna nahi bata payega. Abbe, who cares? It is telling you 80% value in 60 seconds. Uske baad dimag lagao apna. I want to buy a laptop. I'm a coder. My budget is 40,000. And I go to Lenovo, Dell, HP, pick up their brochures, put it onto Gen AI and saying, can you help me recommend a laptop? Is that not a big buying behavior consumer need? It'll go back, this seems the best. You're a coder, you need large screen sizes, you need good processing, you need ability to keep the laptops cold. 5 reasons, this is what works best for you. Click of a button. How many of you have ChatGPT downloaded on your phones? How many of you use ChatGPT more than 5 times a day? This class should have, I know professors will say, oh, sorry, assignments and you can't do all of this. I get it. As an individual, for your researching, for your reading, for prospecting, what is Elon Musk saying with that freaking chip that's going to change a human mind? That's not your subject, right? Please use GPT to figure out the future of that. Manpreet was talking about future of OTT media. Use GPT to figure out some perspective and be able to research. Each one of you must be opinionated about 20 topics. That at a click of a button, you should be able to open up and start doing a conversation. Please use that. It's crazy amount of information. Yesterday, I was with Reliance Jio in their lab. They've set up an environment where, let's say, if our professor here is teaching income tax and she's teaching this in English, live in a Jio meet, she's speaking in English. On the other side, live with a 1 second latency, 1 second, it's live. I can convert that into any language. The student asks the question in Hindi, the question gets played to the teacher in English. I can have a Harvard lecture be played out to rural India today with that technology. And it's chicken shit, it's cheap, nothing, no dollars needed. There's so much happening on technology, but we need to, but hum to commerce kar rahe hain. Arre, commerce nahi kar rahe ho. Everybody is a technologist. And you don't need to be a coder, you need to be a visionary to be able to think. You need to be the bridge between business and technology. And why are you that bridge? Because you're the consumer. You are the generation that every business is targeting.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my name is Pranay Agarwal, and I'm from Ramjas College. Sir, I'm a CA aspirant like you were one day, and I'm currently looking
मैंने
for...
खत्म करी CA पर.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. And currently I'm looking for CA articleship. Sir, like today, right now what I've seen, sir, like if I want to get into a big four like PwC, there are only 2 ways that are left. One is that you get an all India rank, or you should have a good reference. So, sir, my question is, sir, like big fours like PwC should stop the culture of hiring CA articles through references so that deserving candidates could get a chance to work in a big four like PwC.
my philosophy of I did not get an admission in Big Four. I am the part of leadership team at PwC. Right? I made a partner in PwC. At 32 years of age, I was a partner at PwC. I was not SRCC. I was not a CA rank holder. I was not a Big Four guy. So I think, again, I want to go back and saying, this world has a lot of things that you can't control. But the leader of the future will only focus on things that you can control and will solve those things. Stop cribbing about the world. Just start focusing on yourself. How am I the best in this room? And what can I do to be the best in this room? Is the only thing that's needed. I'm telling you, stop. I mean, it's great if you get into PwC, as I said, it's a great pedestal to be in. But that doesn't take your life away if you're not at PwC. There are 20 ways to get back into PwC.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. So my question for you is that, in your opinion, what were the biggest challenges that PwC has faced in the tech-related sector in the near past, and how did they manage to navigate through those effectively?
See, I don't want to sound philosophical, but what's the definition of challenge today has to be revisited. We are a super successful company, 150 years of making profits in the country, lots of people working with us. We've hired 10,000 people in a year. Everything is going perfectly well. 666 partners who seem to be entrepreneurs doing well. Media tracks you, companies like you, everything is perfect. But there are ways to look at it. Glass is half full, half empty, right? If I look at the whole IT industry in the country, right? If I look at SAP, you've heard of SAP as an ERP? SAP, Oracle, have you heard these companies? Right? They are large giants, right? They are giants who brought technology into managing business and managing process. We, for 150 years, have been the gods of understanding how a business runs and how a process runs. Right? And we've made a ton of money on that. We've been very successful. We've helped companies. There's a lot of client love. We've learned a lot in this journey. And we today do $56 billion of just doing this, helping companies figure out their business, their strategy, their processes, their technology, all of that. So we're doing good. We are successful. But by the way, we had the opportunity 50 years ago to build the SAP for the world as PwC. We missed that. The whole outsourcing industry, right? Finance, BPOs, outsourcing, that entire world. Who are the biggest accountants in the world? Big Four, right? That's the Mecca of CAs. They missed the entire wave of their accounting managed services. Genpact does $2 billion. $2 billion. We were supposed to rule that industry. But in those days, we said, no, we don't do managed services. We are very strategic. We're doing advisory. But, there's a big value that you left out. So again, as I said, life is glass half full, glass half empty. I actually think there are many, many opportunities that are out there that successful businesses shut their eyes to. And they cede that space to somebody else. Like the auto example I was saying, there will be a fleet company that will come in and take on and change the whole world of business in the auto space. But does somebody have the courage to start today is the question.
Hello, sir. I'm Varsha from IPCW. Sir, I have this question that when you were finally selected for your CA and you felt like, oh, this is like the biggest accomplishment you finally had for a lot of years. So did you just feel that, okay, this is like enough, I have done enough, or was this like an opportunity, yeah, I want to grab everything, but even after you grabbed every opportunity you could see, you were like, okay, but I don't feel anything, I just feel कि मुझे अब बस उतना ही आता जितना मैंने CA के लिए पढ़ा था. Because right now I'm at that stage that I am in a reputed college, but I just still feel कि I'm not improving in any way. I'm just meeting a lot of people, building a lot of network, but somewhere in tech, by my intelligence, I'm still at that 12th grader point.
So in the normal course, I will say that feeling is a very positive feeling. When you get to that world where you want to disrupt, where you want to do things differently, you think it's status quo, that's the space where a 10x leap happens. Now, I don't know whether that's the reason why you're going through this or there's another problem, but I just think that feeling of saying I've done enough and I need to learn a lot more or do things differently is where the next round of disruption, change, innovation begins to happen. So my suggestion is use this as an opportunity rather than kind of get insight saying, oh, am I intelligent enough? Do I really know more than what I had known 3 years back? Use that as an opportunity rather than sort of keep that as a curse is my suggestion. There is, and sometimes what happens is like a, writer's block. For learning, you get a block. ये तो स्कूल का पढ़ाई है मैं कर चुका हूँ. What should I learn? What should I read? I'm told read a newspaper. Find 3 or 4 people, friends who can nudge you saying, who can give you a script on saying, what will this mean to business or what will this mean to life? Or, there's so much of content out there that can just draw your imagination into a world that you can't imagine, right? So, there's so much to explore and each one of those things will have an impact on business. We'll create startups, we'll create vendors, we'll create customers. Explore that. It's just mind-blowing amount of things. Today there is generative AI that's blowing us away. There's billions of dollars pouring on quantum computing. How many of you know quantum computing? 2 hands. You're the brightest in the country. The world of quantum computing will change every single law of the sun. Everything will change. Why are we not reading about it? 10 years from now, when you're not in SRCC, the world of quantum is going to go back and say jobs are going away. Why can't I spend time today? There is a trend available. दिख रहा है सबको कि quantum आके दुनिया बदलने वाला है. But how does it matter? अभी तो 5 years later. Nobody in campus comes and interviews us on quantum, so therefore I should not spend time. So, unfortunately, you were in a tougher world than the world that we were in. Because we had a course, we had a syllabus, we gotoed it, and we scored. If we scored well, we got a good job. If you got a good job, we had a good pedestal to grow. That world is very different now. You may be the best in education, doesn't mean you'll be best in fact, I'll tell you, one of the brightest kids I've met at work is a guy who was a BCom evening batch student. Why? Because that guy never fears on anything. Because he's so grossly failed in life early, कहता है इससे बुरा क्या हो जाएगा? Courage है, जिगरा है, हिम्मत है.
Sir, I would like to take a page out of your book and I would like to ask that where does PwC see itself in 10 years? Like what does its foggy future look like?
See, 10 years is a very complex answer, but I'll tell you where we are and what we are aspiring to do. We actually think there are only 2 things that business needs today. Only 2 things. We do a ton of things. There are multiple capabilities and multiple solutions and multiple jobs. But out of everything at a Uber helicopter level, there are only 2 things we do. We are in the business of creating more trust and we are in the business of creating outcomes. Now, what does that mean? Every CEO, when they are kind of navigating a foggy future and they are figuring out what investment to make, what decision to take, should I do this, should I not do this? I want to play with generative AI. Do I put my money with Microsoft? Do I put my money with Google? Do I put my money with Amazon Bedrock? These are difficult decisions to take, right? And how PwC can bring in its capability with reach, alliances to be able to help you take the right decisions or support you in those journeys of foggy future and help you get an outcome is what our brand promise needs to be. And that's what we are working towards. Not an easy commitment, but that's what we're willing to do. The second thing is trust. As businesses are growing, as development is happening, the trust quotient is going down. There are more frauds that are happening. There are stock issues that are happening. There are ethical debates that are heightening up. Should we do this? Should we not do this? There is this constant debate that keeps happening saying AI will go off humans and it'll kind of take the whole world over. And somebody says the pendulum goes the other way. World hunger will get solved with AI. How do you build more trust? Society needs more frameworks. Regulators need new laws. Policies need to change. Boardroom thinking needs to change. There are new governance codes and rules that need to be written. And that's again a job that firms like ours need to do in terms of shaping the trust for society. So those are 2 broad blocks we want to work towards. I've left it broad blocks because within this you can do 20 things. Whether I solve for climate, whether I solve for responsible AI, whether I solve for world hunger, whether I solve for poverty, everything is a possibility. But those are 2 blocks we are working towards. And for those 2 blocks, you need a lot of human, you need a lot of technology, you need a lot of collaboration, you need a lot of alliances, and the humility that you as a firm alone will not be able to solve it. So what I do together as an ecosystem is what the future will look like.
So my question is, first of all, listening to you speak was really insightful and highly motivating. Your journey to embracing failures and coming from a family of engineers. So my question for you is actually that since we all know that technology is a really rapidly evolving industry, right? So what was the technological landscape like when you entered this industry, and what motivated you to enter it?
So, since I spoke of vulnerability, day one of my job, I was actually working. My first client, I mean, a 19-year-old kid. Uh, my first job was Taj Group Hotel, and they had a shop called Khazana. If you go to Taj Hotel even today, they have a very high fashion, high luxury Khazana retail shops, and within that they have a section for silk carpets, very expensive, and they wanted us to do a review of that. I was a kid, I knew nothing about luxury, I had never seen a five-star hotel, I didn't know what you know a threaded high knot silk carpet looks like. That was my job. So I went first day to work, very very excited, almost didn't sleep the whole night, saying I'm going to solve some big business problems, like a kid, right? And I went there and my boss asked me saying, Excel आता है? मैंने कहा नहीं. तो he says यार किस गधे को लेके आ गए. तो and then he brought a heavy ledger तो SRCC को तो पता होगा ledger क्या होता है. So ledger, and he says अच्छा ऐसा कर, ये Excel है, इसमें टाइप करना है, ये ledger को टाइप करना शुरू कर दे. So this was my orientation to technology. For freaking 7-8 days I kept punching cut, not knowing why am I doing it, what is the purpose, what am I trying to find. Very frustrating, very irritating. But I can tell you, in about 6 months' time, I used to pride myself as saying I'm the best geek on Excel. And that was my claim to fame, because what I could find on data with Excel was mind blowing. And if I could find that, that was value for the company. And that got me into an accelerated path. So I had zero outlook on technology when I started my life. And as I said, I'm not an engineer. As I said, I was a risk guy, not a tech consulting or a digital guy. After doing about 17, 18 years of risk, I reinvented myself to the world of technology, because I know the world is moving towards technology, and leadership is all about thinking where the wind is swaying and moving ahead of the time rather than getting blown away with it. And when I moved into that journey, it was again a very humbling experience, because you realized you're not the smartest. But it doesn't matter. You can get smarter people around you to be able to get to that input. But if you're an insecure leader, you will never get smart people around you. And by the way, if you don't get smart people around you, you will fail, your company will fail. So I can tell you today, so about, it's on LinkedIn yesterday, about last week, AIBC Eurasia has in Dubai, it's a large global platform, they've given my team the best AI solution for the year award. And that's actually and the guy who built that solution is a 6-year-old experienced engineer. But I'm proud he's in the team, and I'm proud we brought him in, and I can tell you he'll do better than me when he grows up. So you don't need to be a technologist, but you need to aspire, you need to have the vision, you need to have the conviction. What can technology do is more important than how to code technology. Coding is cheaper. But that outlook and vision and thinking of what technology can do is very important. When you say judiciary can be transformed, if somebody were to be able to give me technology that can summarize those 100 pages down into 2 lines, that thought is more important, and that's more valuable. And then those thoughts need to bring in a layer of action down below. So you need to get to research saying, is that possible, not possible? And if you struggle, get the smart people in, collaborate. Cool?